Let's talk about the four horsemen again. In this episode, we're talking about contempt, right? Contempt is, per the Gottman literature, anything that you do to make your partner feel less than. Or as Terry Real would say, putting your partner in the one down position and putting yourself in the one up position. This behavior is most destructive out of all the four horsemen. And something you might want to keep track of is the reality that contempt isn't just destructive on relationships, but is actually destructive on the recipient. You're gonna get sick more often the more often you're exposed to contempt from a partner, from a boss, from a so-called friend. So just be aware of that, right? Contempt has health consequences, physical health consequences. And that should stop us right in our tracks. Let's talk about what it looks like. Overt examples of contempt, overt meaning like obvious, okay? Scoffing, eye rolling, mocking your partner's voice, interrupting them to correct them in the middle of while they're talking, okay? Those are more obvious ways of putting your partner down. Now, there are subtle ways that people put their partners down with contempt, and one of them is establishing superiority through expertise, right? You could correct someone's grammar. You could say, well, because I am a production line manager in an engineering department, I know such and such. Or because I do this, I know more than you, right? There are many ways of establishing superiority, and you can do that through pointing out deficits in your partner's perspective. You can establish superiority through, right, taking a moral high ground, basically calling your partner less good in some way. And so we gotta tighten this down, right? We don't want to be giving contempt to the person we love. Sometimes we do, and we've gotta look out for it. So here are some ways to build awareness. Notice that there are many manifestations, overt and subtle, of contempt, right? More obvious versions of it, and some more sophisticated versions of it. So we want to cultivate, number one, a mindfulness around our words, our body language, and our facial expressions that we consciously, but more commonly unconsciously utilize. Lots of people don't even know they're rolling their eyes. Lots of people don't even notice that they're mocking their partner's voice when they're talking to me as a therapist. So notice the components of contempt as you become more mindful, right? You wanna cut this behavior out. The first thing is, if what you're doing establishes superiority, notice that. If you're unintentionally using contempt, notice that, okay? It cuts right to how much we think we are better than our partners. And historically, culturally, in the US and in many other Western societies, contempt from men toward women has been condoned and even celebrated, okay? Cultures based in Islam, Christianity, Judaism, any of the Abrahamic religions seem to have this in common, right? You can look and see that around the world. Suppression of women's rights are very rooted in Abrahamic cultures. So, shifting religious values in Western society these days seem to unconsciously actually reverse that phenomenon in the direction of women having permission to utilize contempt toward men, right? I've had couples come in and complain about the misogyny, right? But there's also misandry, okay? So men can be demeaning and they can put women in less than positions, but women can do the same thing. They can do that reverse. And it's not helpful. It doesn't build anything for a long-term relationship. So I want to empathize with the instinct of vengefulness, but it is not a great tactic in getting what you need from the people you love, okay? The strategy of contempt eliminates good faith in a conversation. It subverts any intention of relatability, and it nosedives the dynamic into a power struggle, okay? I've seen couples metaphorically arm wrestle each other for that one-up position, and it only establishes a hierarchical dynamic. That's not what we want. We want equanimity between us. We want respect, right? So it stands to reason that misogyny, misandry, these things, they all fall under the umbrella of contempt, and we see it in relationships all the time. So instead of relying on some kind of imperative or ideal of how we are supposed to be asserting superiority over another, totally misguided, totally missing the point. We can rely on tools like we find in the Gottman method, like the antidote to contempt. How cool is that? Instead of trying to force an ideal in a conversation, focusing on us, right, and using the antidote for contempt. So what is that? Well, the antidote for contempt is to catch ourselves using it first. And if you're not good at that, you might consult with a professional therapist, a Gottman certified therapist, or an emotional focused certified therapist, okay? Don't describe your partner as critical or as using contempt, because this often just institutes a reversal of blame, just like we talked about in the criticism video. So I often get that question, as I stated before, how do I let my partner know that they've used contempt? Because I don't like receiving it. And the answer comes in a very neat and simple truth. Use the antidote to criticism. Okay? If you don't remember what that is, go back and watch that video. We're here to focus on the antidote for contempt in the following videos, but if you're the recipient of contempt, the best way to respond is to use something gentle in the way that you present it to your partner. So for now, I want you to try and focus on any incidents in the past week or month, maybe, that you've employed contempt as a form of communication. So just take a moment. When you can think of one, keep it in mind, and I'll show you how to turn it around into something useful in the video around the antidote to contempt.